أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، بارئ الخلائق أجمعين، باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين، ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الخلق وأعز المرسلين، حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المنتجبين، سيما بقية الله روحي وأرواح العالمين له الفداء. قال الله الحكيم في محكم كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنا أعطيناك الكوثر فصل لربك وانحر، إن شانئك هو الأبتر. آمنا بالله، صدق الله العلي العظيم. Mu'mineen and mu'minat, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, this evening we will have a discussion about the daughter of Amir al-Mu'mineen and Fatima al-Zahra salamullah alayha, the granddaughter of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, none other than Zainab al-Kubra salamullah alayha. As we commemorated her martyrdom last night, and inshallah since we had the a'mal, the prayers and supplications, we did not have the opportunity to speak about her. So inshallah tonight I will have a brief discussion on this important personality and her legacy and how we can follow her and learn from her life. Before that, wa alaykum assalam wa rahmatullah. Before that, if anybody has any questions regarding Islamic law or jurisprudence, fiqh, we try and cover some of those on Friday evenings. So if anyone has any specific questions, otherwise I have something that I wanted to share with mu'mineen and mu'minat. But first I give priority, wa alaykum assalam, I give priority to the questions that you have here. If anyone has any questions here. Anybody? Inshallah. Okay, so the question that was asked was regarding sujood. Somebody said, if I go to a masjid and they don't have the turba, they don't have the clay, if you wish, the mohr, whichever language, in Farsi they call it mohr, and in Arabic they call it the turba, which is literally the turba actually is not clay, is soil. Turab is soil. However, when they put it together, they use a little bit of water and then they dry it. So it's more of a clay that's been dried up. Nevertheless, if you go to a masjid and they have the carpet and they don't have those things, someone asked, if I feel uncomfortable to bring my own or to put something, what do I do? How do I pray? So let's clarify our position on this first. According to historians, during the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in his masjid they never had anything of what we have today, as in the carpet. It was simply earth, the soil and the pebbles and whatever it was, the earth that they prayed on. And during that time, if anybody, narrations are very clear. If anybody tried to put their sleeves when they're doing sujood, their sleeves under their forehead or part of their hamama, most people wore hamama, the head cover. Some would try and put part of it under their forehead, and the Prophet, when he would see them, he would say, don't do that. Why would they do that? Perhaps because of the heat, because they did not even have a roof. The masjid at that time did not have the roof. And so when the sun hits, it's hot. And so the earth is very hot. And so they would do that to try and not prostrate on earth, which is very hot. The Prophet told them not to do that. So what the narrations say is that they used to carry pebbles in their hand to cool it down. You know, all those, you would think that in your hand it becomes hot. If you're in a cold temperature in your hand, you make it hot. But if you're in extreme heat temperature in your hand, it cools down actually. So, you know, your body maintains its temperature pretty well because most of our body is made of what? Water, and water maintains its temperature pretty well. That's one of the ways God miraculously made us able to survive when we go out in the heat or in the cold. You know, to a degree, obviously, and for a certain, amount of hours or time. In any case, so they would cool it down in their hand for that purpose, and so they can do sujood on it. What we deduce from that is that the Prophet did not want them to pray on fabric. And we have a hadith from Ahlul Bayt that clarify that we should not pray on anything that could be potentially clothing. You know, could be worn as part of clothing. And so any kind of wool, cotton, polyester that is normally used for clothing, we don't do sujood on it. We do sujood on earth. Or we can do sujood on things that grow from earth as long as we don't consume them. So, can I do sujood on grass in the park? Yes. Can I do sujood on a piece of wood? Yes. However, if it's cinnamon, cinnamon is wood, yes, cinnamon sticks, it's consumable, so we don't do sujood on it. If it's wheat, we don't do sujood on it. So what we could potentially eat, we don't do sujood on it either. Perhaps the reason is that we don't confuse. The sujood is to prostrate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and not in respect of this, the ni'mah that He has given us. So not to confuse things, perhaps, wallahu alam, why the command that we should not do sujood on what is consumable as in eating. However, if one feels fear for their safety, because in some regions, especially during the times of the Khulafa of Bani Umayyah and Bani Abbas, during that time it was very dangerous for the followers of Ahlul Bayt to practice and freely show their faith and beliefs, because they would be persecuted and killed. And so the Imams of Ahlul Bayt told them, if you feel fear, if you're in a situation of fear, do what everyone else does so that you don't stand out and become a subject of harassment or harm and so on. So we refer to that as taqiyya. And taqiyya is a concept in the Quran, very clear, that if you fear for your safety, you do taqiyya. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Quran says, إِلَّا أَن تَتَّقُوا مِنْهُمْ تُقَاةً. So if you have fear for your safety, even at the time of the Prophet early on, Ammar, one of the great companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, was forced to denounce the one God and mention the names of their idols. And he was extremely distressed afterwards, and Quran was revealed. God revealed the ayah that says that if you do that as out of fear while your heart is confident about faith, then you're okay. إِلَّا مَنْ أُكْرِهَ وَقَلْبُهُ مُطْمَئِنٌ. Quran says whoever is forced while his heart is in confidence of his faith in the one God, the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that concept is in the Quran, and the Imams of Ahlul Bayt, they said for the sake of saving your life, if you have to be with the rest of the believers in the ways that they are, you are allowed. So, back to our question, you go to a masjid and you want to pray, and they are not followers of Ahlul Bayt, therefore they are praying on the carpet. Can I just pray with them? If you have fear for your safety or for even harassment, it doesn't have to be safety as in like they're going to kill me. But if they're going to harass me, our scholars, they say even if you fear that you're going to be harassed, then that would be okay. If you can put something in your hand as you go down, you put it in, as you get up, you take it off. I've done that when I was in Medina, and I wanted to pray near the house of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in the place which is referred to as Rawda, because the Prophet says that this is a garden from paradise. You know, between my house and the podium, the member where I give my sermons, is a garden from paradise. So many Muslims across the schools of thought, they like to go into that area and pray. But that area is all carpeted. So to avoid any kind of harassment, those who go there, either they don't put anything, or in my case, I put something and I took it as I get up, so nobody would, harass me. So that is also one way of getting around. So any questions on that? I know we took a little bit more time on this question. Yes.
So does that count with salats too as well? So like say if somebody's at work and they don't necessarily be direct with retaliation, they kind of be like passive with it, so they can't explain it in court. So they start cutting your hours because you start praying more. Doesn't mean you allowed to stop praying because...
No. Okay, so this is a very good question, Ahsan. So can I not pray because they might discriminate at work against me or something like that? This is like open disobedience and disregard to, the principles of our faith. So if let's say in the airplane, okay, time for prayers. If they don't allow me to stand up and pray, I'll sit down in my seat and try and turn towards the direction of Qibla and pray. But to abandon prayers altogether, no, I would not do that. So if it's really difficult, you might want to hide somewhere. My brother, in fact, in France at university, they would not allow them to pray. And in Paris, it gets cold in the winter. And he was sharing with me that he would have to, anyone who wanted to pray, they would have to go somewhere in the parking lot behind cars and whatever, because if authorities find them, they fine them, and they may even expel them from university, because you're not allowed to show your religion in public or in public sector like universities and so on and so forth. So in challenging situations, they've had to do things, become creative in how they avoid confrontation or harassment or harm. But to abandon prayers, no. You could delay it a little bit and pray before sunset. For example, it's Dhuhr and Asr, and make sure you pray before sunset, for example. That's okay, if you delay it because of but not praying it all together, no, we cannot do that. Ahsan.
The example of airplane, usually the airline stores are very receptive.
Yeah. Yeah.
You just have to ask
them. Yeah. I've had that experience. Anytime in airlines, I asked them to, if I was allowed to pray, they would tell me where, and they would, even some of them would go and ask the captain which direction is Mecca. They come back to me and say, this is the direction, if I wasn't aware myself. So I've always had good experiences, but they're not with me. There are people who told me, including my own brother. He was on a supposedly Muslim airline, a Turkish Airlines, and they are the worst. Okay, so I'm saying it here, listen to me, the world, whoever can hear me, because they do deserve negative publicity. Because as Muslims, not allowing passengers to pray on their airlines because of safety, and then German Airlines or American Airlines being hospitable and helping Muslims to pray on their, it is a shame. It is a real shame. So if we face that situation, then okay, in the seat or whatever is possible. So yes, qiyam is a condition unless one is unable to. So if they're unable to because they're sick, or they're unable to because of, let's say it's turbulence, and turbulence throughout the time until it's going to become qada. So in that case, you have to sit. Besides whether or not they allow you, they may say no. And defying that position is not right, because it's safety. So then you would have to sit. And so prayers do not become cancelled because you cannot do qiyam, or because you have to do sujood on something that you're not allowed to. It is, you have to pray even if you have to pray laying down. You know, in a hospital bed, you have to pray. You still have to pray. You don't have water. You use the soil and do tayammum. Yeah? So we have prayers, we have to do it regardless. Ahsant. So I think that suffices for that. Do you have any? No. Okay. So moving on to the next discussion, and I'll keep it brief, inshallah, regarding the daughter of Amir al-Mu'mineen, alayhi afdal salawat wa tahiyyat, the granddaughter of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, from his daughter Fatima salamullah alayha, regarding Zainab salamullah alayha. I began with the surah which is interpreted, although it is not explicit, but implicitly it is interpreted to be Fatima Zahra salamullah alayha, Surah Al-Kawthar. Al-Kawthar means abundance of good, and it refers to a fountain in paradise. However, Al-Kawthar came in a response to somebody who was saying the Prophet is cut off. So someone said the Prophet does not have lineage, he's cut off. His lineage is cut off at the time of the Prophet. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, your enemy, the one who detests you, is the one who's cut off. As for you, it is on the contrary, God has given you abundance of good. Al-Kawthar. So the application is through his daughter Fatima salamullah alayha. Because the discussion is, you don't have lineage. God says, no, he does, and it's a lot of good. Not just lineage, but good lineage. Through who? Through Fatima salamullah alayha. Who are the children of Fatima? The immediate Kawthar is in Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein, and Zainab salamullah alayha. This is the immediate. Yes, through their children, the Prophet's children, so many of them. Not every one of them, we have to agree. Not all of them, but so many from the lineage of the Prophet became heads in guiding people towards goodness, including the Imams, the 12 infallible Imams, or 11 through his children, and his brother Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi afdal salawat wa tahiyyat, and including afterwards many of their children, Sada, who were teachers and scholars and pioneers in positive movements of their time. So khayr al-kathir, or abundance of goodness through his children. Immediately, one of the applications is Zainab salamullah alayha. Zainab played a role that literally saved Islam. How? The Prophet ﷺ, he says to his children or grandchildren that you are the masters of youth in paradise. Specifically to Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he says, my continuation is through you. Husaynun minni wa ana min Hussein. He says, this Hussein is from me and I am from him. Not just he's from me, as in he's like me, he is in his faith, in his belief, in his courage for the sake of God, in all the good attributes he's like me, but also I am from him, meaning the continuation of the Prophet's name, fame, and his message is through Imam Hussein alayhi salam. What is the role of Zainab salamullah alayha here? In Karbala, when Imam Hussein alayhi salam was being massacred with his family members, the plan of the enemy of the Prophet had a big plan, and that was to bury Islam altogether, to bury the name of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, with it bury Islam. You take the name of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam from Islam, what is left? So the plan was to bury the name of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That was their plan. Why? Because they had their animosity and jealousy from early on. Umayyah, jealous with Hashim. Bani Hashim were the most respected, and Bani Umayyah had attributes that were not worthy of respect. Abu Sufyan was not worthy of respect. He fought against the Prophet for so long, and eventually, when they could get anyone, their plan was to get Hind, his wife. She planned to get, she said to Wahshi, her servant, she said, you either get me the heart or the liver of the Prophet, or Imam Ali. She doesn't say the Prophet, she just says the name, obviously. Or Ali ibn Abi Talib, or Hamza. He did not get to the Prophet in Uhud, he did not get to Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, therefore he got to Hamza. He brought her the liver. She literally bit into the liver of the Prophet. Sick people. These were the origins of Bani Umayyah. Muawiyah was the son of Hind. Yazid, la'natullah alayhima, was the grandson of that same person. And so his plan was to bury the Prophet's name. Jealousy, animosity from early on. Imam Hussein alayhi salam came on the day of Ashura. He gave his sister Zainab salamullah alayha the responsibility to care for whatever remained from that family. Whoever and whatever. The remaining members of the family, Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam, and also on that day, from the men, Imam Baqir alayhi salam was there. So she had to care for both. She had to care for Imam Zain al-Abidin, who was unwell alayhi salam, and she had to care for all the children, including Imam Baqir alayhi salam. If it wasn't for Imam Baqir alayhi salam, today Muslims would not have any Islamic law that they could follow. This I say it with full confidence. They would not have a standard law that they could follow. They would be completely confused. The biggest schools of Islam today, they owe it to Imam Baqir and Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, the children of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, saved literally by Zainab salamullah alayha. That's one way. Another one is what I want to also refer to here and tonight, and how we can follow Zainab salamullah alayha, is her voice. She started what today we refer to as campaigning. You know, in today's world, campaigning is big. It changes the country or the politics of the world even. Media, campaigning, yeah. It is very effective. Ahlul Bayt salamullah alayhim, they taught us that from early on. Maybe we still need to learn and work better on that. From early on, Zainab salamullah alayha taught us that even words are sharper and more powerful than the swords. Words, yes, words. They did what they did in Karbala, thinking they finished everything. Imam Hussein alayhi salam is killed, his brothers, companions, children. One individual remaining from that family as a young man, and some children. And they planned initially to finish them all. They came to Kufa, and from there to other cities, and from there to Sham. In every one of those places, it was Zainab salamullah alayha, her sermons and her words that exposed them and eventually defeated them. The Wali of Medina, when they came back to Medina, the governor of Medina, he wrote, one of the reasons why Zainab salamullah alayha ended up departing this world in Sham or near Sham, in the villages near Sham, was this letter. According to historians, the Wali, the governor of Medina, he sends a letter to the cursed Yazid rahmatullah alayh. He says, if you have interest in Medina, you need to get Zainab out of the city. If you have any interest in having Medina under your authority and charge, you need to get who? Zainab salamullah alayha out of the city. This is the power of words. The words said for the sake of God. This is Zainab. Today, how can I follow? And I'll finish with this one inshallah. Today, use words. Put words eloquently. This is how Ahlul Bayt were. You know, when Sharif al-Radi wanted to write the words of Imam Ali alayhi salam and compile them, he named his compilation what? Nahjul Balagha, the path of eloquence. Why? Because they were the most eloquent. Put your words eloquently, meaning educate yourself, speak eloquently, have good speech and powerful speech, and then speak and share your words in any platform that is available, in any way that is possible in today's world, to propagate the right school of Ahlul Bayt, the right Islam, the pure Islam from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, that was preserved at the time through his children, Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and his sister Zainab salamullah alayha. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us the opportunity to be amongst the sincere lovers and followers of Ahlul Bayt, follow Zainab salamullah alayha and her legacy in our life, inshallah. Any questions? Yes? The relationship between Kulthum. There is, okay, thank you for that. Historically, there are debates in terms of who is Kulthum. Some suggest that she is another daughter of Fatima salamullah alayha, who is the sister of Zainab. Some suggest that is the title of Sayyidah Zainab. So she is Kulthum. Some suggest she is another daughter of Imam Ali alayhi salam, but from after Fatima Zahra salamullah alayha. It was not during the time of Fatima, it was afterwards. So there are different suggestions, and I cannot say which one is correct. Allahu A'lam, to be honest. We don't know. If Kulthum is mentioned in many narrations and places, and it seems it is a different person. The narration, for example, when they came back to Medina, it says that Zainab salamullah alayha said so and so, and Kulthum recited so and so. So there are suggestions that it seems, based on some of these narrations, that they are different people. So it's not Zainab and Kulthum are two different people. However, whether or not Kulthum was the daughter of Fatima salamullah alayha and Amirul Mu'mineen, or was she the daughter of Amirul Mu'mineen from another marriage after the martyrdom of Fatima Zahra salamullah alayha, there is a debate on that as well. Yeah, so it is unclear completely to say that it's one or the other. We can't really assent. I think that's no more question. Yes?
So, we can clearly say that if Zainab's message wasn't carried, she's the one who brought the message of Allah from outside. If she had not done that, basically, nobody would know what happened.
What happened? Assent.
So, same, كل يوم عاشوراء كل هذا المكان. Same thing applies, obviously, at all times.
To us, yeah.
So, that is the importance of
Speaking.
speaking out about the happening.
Truth, Assent, yeah. So, that's a very good point, that at that time, if she didn't fulfill her duty and play the role that she did, today Islam would be a different Islam, for sure. Islam of Bani Umayyah had nothing to do with the Islam of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Absolutely nothing. Yazid was drunken publicly, openly. Okay, openly drinking. Okay. So that kind of behavior was not just not condemned, it was actually praised. He is the Khalifa, he does whatever he wants, and that was the path they were taking. So we would have another Islam altogether. In other words, we wouldn't have Islam, in simple terms. And so she had to speak, she spoke, Islam was saved. Every one of us has to consider themselves to be a messenger. Meaning, you know some truth, some level of truth, and you see falsehood, you need to speak. Sometimes it may be as small as a circle of family members. Sometimes it might be community members, neighborhood. Sometimes it might be further. It depends on what role we take in life, what our capability or capacity is, and we have to play that role. Yes.
It's very interesting that Allah wanted a female to deliver this address. In so many cultures, think females should just shut their mouth.
Yes. Very good.
Instead, Islam is telling us that Hazrat Fatima, yet again, a female, not a male,
Yeah.
played such an important role. And Hazrat Zainab is the one that saved Islam.
Yes.
And still, we have cultures that say women should just
Not speak.
not even seen or heard.
Yeah, Ahsantum. So that's a very, very good point, that it was the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that the religion is saved not just by a male, but by a male and a female. The role of female in the school of Ahlul Bayt is very clear. It is, they're present, they're there, obviously with maintaining modesty, chastity, even speaking out and coming out when they don't need to, they don't. But if they have to, they do. And we have to understand that, yes, Zainab salamullah alayha, before she had to come out, when she didn't need to, she was one that they say even the shape of her body was unknown to public. Why? Because whenever she would want to go out to visit the shrine of the Prophet, she would be surrounded by her brothers. You know, Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein, Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas, Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. You know, the narration says that Imam Ali alayhi salam would tell his son Imam Hassan to go and dim the lights so that people don't see even the shape of Zainab salamullah alayha. That's how much they maintained modesty. Even Fatima salamullah alayha, the daughter of the Prophet, when she came out to speak in the masjid, if we read the narration, how she came out, it's amazing. She wrapped herself in certain garments and then came with a group of the Hashemiyat surrounding her, and then asked for some sort of curtain to be placed so that she can speak. But yes, she spoke. And so no, we do not ascribe to a school that silences women. In fact, I often tell communities, if they don't utilize women in their communities, they're trying to clap with one hand, literally. And you cannot clap with one hand. They have to be together. Men. In fact, our schools, Sunday schools or schools in general, but specifically Sunday schools, cannot be even run without the women involvement and teaching and so on. So definitely that is an important point, that God's decree was that we have great examples in the daughter of the Prophet and the granddaughter of the Prophet being leaders and speaking out in order for us to understand that yes, they can speak, and when they need to, they should speak. And often in today's world, the voice of women could be, although I mean both of them they play, but could be in some points, in some places, in some situations, it could be more powerful when women speak from an emotional side. It would have more impact in some situations. So both parties, they should participate, and for sure in the school of Ahlul Bayt we should not silence women, rather we should utilize their power and their capabilities. Ahsantum. Inshallah, with that we, yes.
But I think if you look at the history, you read Bani Umayyah, but the Empires and Bani Abbas, basically those are the big, huge power of Islam, which is spreading Islam. Not as a true Islam or not true Islam, but they actually spread Islam from the east to the west. Basically go all the way past India and go back to Spain, basically. I just don't understand why. Do we try to give a credit to those?
No, absolutely. There's absolutely no credit, because what they spread was not Islam, they spread territory. Bani Umayyah and Bani al-Abbas, they spread territory.
Right.
Islam was spreading naturally. It was spreading like today.
But remember, that time, this real Islam was only staying in Saudi Arabia and Iraq.
No.
There is no, and Syria, maybe, because Zainab went all the way up there, but it was not growing as Bani Umayyah and Abbasi did.
No, they did not grow Islam at all. Wherever they entered, if you study history properly, there are researchers that are done about this. Wherever they entered, they ruined things. Bani Umayyah and Bani al-Abbas, wherever they entered, they ruined things. Islam grew naturally, and wherever it grew through love, it remained. In Iran, they grew because of the love of Ahlul Bayt. And that is why when Ma'mun wanted to gain some power and support from the Persians to come and fight his brother Amin, he brought Imam Rida alayhi salam too. So Islam grew through love. Islam grew naturally through intellect and emotions, not with the sword. Wherever it went with the sword, it failed. That is the reality. I'll give you an example. Did Islam remain in Spain and that region? If you study the history, especially during the Ottomans, because it was simply kingdom and territory. There was absolutely nothing to do with the religion.
If you look at it, it's not, I mean, the history doesn't look at it.
That's a lengthy conversation. Let's leave it here. I think that suffices for this because of inshallah, in interest of time, so we don't keep people any longer. Nevertheless, let us ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us the opportunity to be amongst the real followers of Ahlul Bayt, not their enemies, and we absolutely give no credits to any of their enemies. And let us ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us wisdom and forgiveness for us and forgiveness for al-marhumin, and let's remember all of them with al-Fatiha ma'a salat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali